Alibaba has lost $526 billion in value in the past 13 months. You just look at this 1 year chart, its stock is down 58%. It's gone down to about $110 a share today. And if we scroll out to the 5 year chart, if you've invested 5 years ago, you've only made just shy of 20%. Alibaba is getting hammered out there. Why is this happening? What's going on with Alibaba? Well, in the past, we know that Alibaba's had some issues as regulators have really flexed their muscles in trying to keep a lot of their internet companies in line. And so it really started with a lot of headlines around Alibaba when Jack Ma kind of went off the scene and when his fintech company Ant Group, whose IPO was suspended late last year following critical comments from the Chinese tech billionaire on regulators. So he kind of talked bad about Chinese regulators, and what happened? They postponed the IPO. So, there's been other areas where they've been cracking down, especially with a ride-hailing stock that we're going to talk a little bit about in a minute called Didi. And, the Chinese regulators, the government, it seems like they're kind of doing whatever they want to do with these companies, and these companies are following orders. Didi was hit with a review from Beijing's cybersecurity agency, and a week later, officials ordered this Chinese app, the Chinese app stores to remove Didi's, uh, you know, app from all of their platforms. So they can just go in there and say, hey, these Chinese app stores, remove Didi from your app store right now. And they did. So what's going on with Alibaba? Well, the big thing that you'll see in the news is there's concern of delisting, which we will get to in a minute. But let's talk about some stuff. So Baba is dropping over a few things. So Chinese regulations are tightening on their tech companies greatly. Alibaba recently reported, disappointing quarterly sales. They missed their projections. They also set guidance that, their revenue next year is going to be slowing for 2022. That's never a good sign to have slowing revenue for a company. And then China is putting pressure on its Chinese companies to only list on the Chinese stock exchange and not the US. So they're kind of trying to restrict overseas listings. And what's going on with that is you'll look here, Alibaba really is dropping today because its stock is there's concerns that it might delist off the US stock exchange. So basically, there's concerns that there's going to be immense pressure on companies like Alibaba to get off, the primary listing on the New York Stock Exchange. And there's suggested reports that Chinese regulators will restrict companies' abilities to list overseas. So they're going to make it very difficult. So this is raising concerns around Alibaba that it might be forced to ditch their listing on the stock exchanges on the Nasdaq or the New York Stock Exchange. What really hit home today is there's a Chinese company, ride-sharing company, Didi, that announced it plans to delist from the US. So Didi's shares sank 14% today, which is Friday, after they initially climbed in pre-market trading. And Didi says it plans to delist from the New York Stock Exchange immediately. And the Chinese ride-hailing firm is set to pursue a listing in Hong Kong instead. So here are my thoughts. I follow a lot of people that have been very bullish on Alibaba, and that is true if you look at just them at their company only. But when you put in the fact that they, are in China and they're having to, weather all these Chinese regulations and pressures and stuff, it was never worth it for me. I never once considered buying Alibaba because I agree, like a lot of people say, if you look at just their financials, this company is very undervalued, extremely undervalued. But I think what a lot of people discounted was the power of the Chinese government coming in and doing things like it's doing now with Didi. Now, Didi says that it's choosing to delist from the US and then go on the Hong Kong exchange. I wouldn't put it past me that that's not a decision by Didi. They might be under immense pressure from the Chinese government to go in there and delist or else face some type of other regulations, fines, etc., etc. If they can take them off all app stores just like that, imagine what else they can do. Imagine what they could do to Alibaba. So what I say to you, is this worth the risk, this investment? You know, maybe it's just, fear in the streets that'll calm over in a couple more months. That's a possibility. But when it comes to my money, I rather not take that risk. That's just not a risk I'm willing to take. And a lot of people bought Alibaba when it was at $135 a share, stating that, oh, it's going to shoot back up to 300 by the end of the year. Well, now it's down to $110. And it's not that I'm trying to put anybody down. I follow some YouTubers that I respect tremendously. I think they're super smart and they look at things in a different way that are great. But like I've always told you guys, before you buy a stock, just by listening to someone else on YouTube, sit back, kind of meditate on it, right? Get all those thoughts out your mind and bring in your own thoughts. Do your own research. Have your own convictions. And for me, my conviction was I don't think that's worth Alibaba's worth the risk. There's a chance that they can delist now. Imagine if Alibaba comes out within the next couple months and says we're delisting. Imagine the type of fear that will put into the market and how many people are going to sell that stock and who knows what happens, right? They're saying that US with DD delisting that they're going to create some type of opportunity to own this on the Hong Kong exchange, but it's very cloudy right now. There's nothing to say how that's going to happen. So a lot of people are selling out, and I just think people underestimate the power of what the Chinese government can do. And that's why I don't invest. That's why I stop right there to say I don't like that. Because even though Alibaba's still, when you look at their financials, I don't think that for a second that they're safe because the government can come in just like they did with Didi and start imposing all these crazy restrictions and regulations and put pressure on them and force them to delist. So I never like to say that anyone's wrong, and that's not what I'm saying here. Maybe Alibaba does turn around and makes people a lot of money. But for me, I just think people are devaluing the power of the Chinese government. A lot of people put those fears to the side when I think it's a legit fear to have. This is one fear that I think is okay to have and put into perspective. And so I never have even thought about investing in Alibaba. If I take out everything except their financials and them as a company compared to their stock price, it's an excellent buy right now. It really is. But as a long term investor, I just think there's too much uncertainty around this company. I think there's too much risk with the Chinese government coming in and being able to pretty much have any power over this company that they want, and that's not something that I want to invest in. That's just not my investing strategy. So I choose to stay with U.S. quality companies, companies that I know here in the US things are a lot more fair. Things have to play out, through the law, through, a ton of things before they'd ever get to that point where the government can say, we're going to do this to you or this to you. There's a lot of stuff in the US that protects the consumers, where in China, there's not those protections. So with Alibaba, this is a stock I won't buy. I don't care if it goes down to $5 a share and has potential great upside. I just don't think it's worth the risk for my portfolio and for me to put money in. And so for that, I just hope you guys take all this in, think about it. Many of you might be in Baba right now and you're down quite a bit. There's potential upside, there's a lot of potential downside, and it's just something you're going to have to yourself think about and make a decision. So I hope this was helpful. I just, it's just hard. It's hard either way you look at it. But try to get others' opinions, others' views, but at the end of the day, come to a decision on your own and be solid in that. With me, I don't think there's nothing solid with the Chinese government. There's nothing that, I can put my faith in there. And so I just choose not to invest. So with that said, guys, have a great day. There's some other great buying opportunities in the market right now, I feel. And so, of course, I'm a holder of Vici. I'm going to buy some more Vici today. And just just look out for those good quality companies with great futures and think about the big picture always. Don't just focus on one thing. Let me know what you think. Do you think Baba's going to be a turnaround play? Are you going to go heavy in on Alibaba? Do you agree more with me on the side that it's not worth it, being with all the power that the Chinese government has over these companies? I'd love to hear your thoughts because this is a very interesting topic. So, with that said, guys, have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Mark's Finance and Fitness.